Hello and welcome to another episode of Scoundrels, Inc. This is Frank, that's me, that's Kevin, that's Brandon. No Sean today, he's feeling a little bit under the weather, so send him some well wishes. But today, we're going to do a complete overview of Season 1 of Star Wars Andor, and then we're going to get into some Season 2 news, as well as discuss a little bit about the discourse around Andor, and I guess Star Wars discourse at large, because this show was definitely influencing a lot of different types of conversations. So, with that said, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Do the whole thing, please. We really appreciate it. And
before you go to our logo, have you seen the trailer for Cocaine Bear?
I am going to scold you. But no, I have not seen the Cocaine Bear trailer. I meant
madness.
to, but
It's
yeah.
madness.
Yeah, Han Solo is in it.
Is he?
Yeah, it's Make Solo 2 happen, finally happened.
Okay, I thought it was like, is it like Chewbacca is the Cocaine Bear? And
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
They need
Out
to
of
do,
control.
first of all,
They also got that one dude from Obi-Wan. I don't remember his name, but he's like...
There's a lot of dudes in Obi-Wan.
I know the actor's name. I don't know the character's name.
Is it Rupert Friend, maybe you're talking about?
No. It's...
Is it
Ray Liotta.
Ewan McGregor?
No.
Okay, not that guy. Okay. Sometimes it's the most obvious ones.
Yeah, no, it's O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Okay, there you go.
Yes, and Alden Ehrenreich is in it, so... Quite the crossover.
Yeah.
They need to do a parody where it's Cocaine Chewbacca, Cocaine Wookiee. I mean, if someone did that, it would go viral. So you're welcome for whoever decides to make that, because we have no time. Because we had no time to...
Yeah, so this is the other
Rebellions
thing.
are built on time.
About 4 days ago, I did some prep for this episode about, hey, think about what are your favorite moments, your favorite quotes.
Yeah.
Here's some links recapping Season 1 and some news on Season 2. And Brandon walks in today, and I go, did you do your homework? And he's like, what homework? And I'm like, well, at the very least, I'm thinking, did you click the links for the Season 2 stuff? And he's like, what? As if he has no idea what I'm talking about. And then Kevin, we sit down like a couple minutes ago, and I'm like, did you do the homework? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Didn't click any links. Claimed he couldn't get to the document.
I could not
All of a
get into
sudden,
the
he
document,
shows
the password.
He gets right in there. Like
His password is very creative. I can't say what it is, but it's maddening when you type it out. You got to make the password easy so that you could log on real easy. Like password. Think of like Happy Hogan. Password. What's the password? Password.
okay,
2187.
Look, by the way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not a secure password, though.
That's the combination of my luggage.
So therefore, these guys have nothing to talk. That's not true. They're gonna wing it. I'll
tell you who my favorite droid is.
Well, we're not doing that just yet.
D2EMO.
Right, but so let's kick it off though with our.
happy. That's my droopy, which is also B2EMO. Okay, so.
I mean, that's fair.
I am so happy.
But I want to get Brandon. I'm going to you first because I want to know your overall
Why
thoughts.
him first? He didn't do his homework.
Because he came here first.
I did my homework.
You didn't do squat.
I at least tried to log into the server. He didn't even ask for a password.
But you know what was funny? Here's what happened. You try to log in, you go, can't do it. Not gonna even text Frank. Ask Frank, hey, can I get in?
I didn't want to bother you. You're a busy guy.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, Brandon, what did you think of the first season on an overall basis?
I really enjoyed it. It was definitely a little more like, I hate to say that it's like more grounded in reality. I feel like that's like the cliche thing to say, but like it focused more on like character growth and like human emotions or maybe alien emotions, because this is Star Wars. Despite what people say about there not being a lot of aliens in this show, they're around. But remember, the Empire's kind of racist, so they just kind of push them aside sometimes, and that's why they're bad. But anyways, maybe that's part of the theme of the show. There's a lot about, Kevin's giving me like a look.
But good look, of interested look.
Okay, good.
I'm looking at you because I'm going to copy your answer. So keep going, so I can just say what you say.
Well, there's a lot in it that's like relevant to the like political climate.
Yeah.
Well, not just like today, but like all the time. That's what Star Wars is, like World War II, the Vietnam War, and now everything that's going on in the world, in American politics and world politics and police and government and tyrannical leaders and all that. But what I was trying to go with this, I don't remember. I had a
But you did enjoy it, which was
I
which
did
was nice.
enjoy
It was
it.
grounded in
It
reality.
was grounded in reality. It focused on like the human element. Oh,
This is
I
why
remember.
you do the homework.
I remember what I was gonna say.
I'm so scared
Unlike
for this show.
this is the
I'm
point.
Prendergast this episode.
There
Faces.
There is a nightmare that I used to have where you go to school and you forget. Like I still have it. It's recurring to this day, and it's always for some reason literature, and it's because I haven't read the book, and I'm living it out here live on air for all of you. So
First of all, that's not a nightmare for me because I actually just never did the reading in school. All the time. High school, college, didn't matter. But like, oh, I was supposed to read that? Okay, yep. Hey, but
and
one,
you're the smartest guy of this three.
one time I did do
in
a book
specified
report.
area, okay?
No, I would say for me, you guys are both smarter than me.
One time I did do a book report and I only read the back of the book and I got like a C+. So pretty good. Pretty good. But what I was getting at, the point that I was leading to was that unlike a lot of Star Wars where it's like black and white, like this is the good guy, this is the bad guy, there's a lot of gray area in this show. And like we know the people in the Empire are supposed to be bad, but you find yourself rooting for them. And then there's also like the people that are in the rebellion or about to be in the rebellion because it's not so developed yet. But the people in the prison, it's like those are prisoners. They committed crimes. Well, did they? Some of them did. I don't know. It just like gets you like thinking about what is like good and what is bad and who decides all of this.
The one point on the Imperial thing, I think you're basically referencing Dedra, right?
Yeah.
When you watch it back, I watched it with a completely different lens than I did the first time through. And it's quite a different.
Yeah.
You look at her performance way differently because you look at the little nuances of her character in those earlier episodes before she becomes the evil interrogating, Imperial against Bix. But that's one thing the show did really well.
Yeah. First time through, you're like, yeah, you go, girl. You get that promotion.
And now you're like, I want you fighting.
Yeah. And the second time through, you're like, oh, you fascist. God damn it.
I knew it. I knew she was a fascist. They tricked me.
But then like they almost kissed at the end. And I'm like, ooh, I kind of wanted
Even
them
that,
to kiss.
I was not on board
like
for that.
they're perfect for each other, but in like a toxic way.
Very toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic to the galaxy at large.
Yes. Because then together, they're like...
Kevin, you can drink
They
your
almost,
drink.
They almost.
You're not even talking. You're like, every time he was talking and you're going to take a sip, you just stopped as if he was going to be drinking.
That's how polite of a co-host I am. I'm
Do we
zeroed in
all
on
have to be
being-
quiet in order for you to drink? Is that what happened?
You just do this.
There you go. Look at that. Brandon's drinking out of the can.
I was trying to make a slurping noise like obnoxiously, and I couldn't do it.
Wow. All right, Kevin, what's your overall thoughts on Andor? As he tries to take a sip from his thermos.
What?
The
I love that it was
homework.
grounded in reality. And there's shades of gray everywhere. No.
50 to be exact.
I just liked it because I liked it. That sounded like I disliked it. I liked it. I loved it, actually. Because it represents Star Wars, but just in a different way. One of the reasons that Rogue One I loved, and it hit me so well, was it got me so excited for a Star Wars story when they were going to call the spin-offs that, because it was like, it felt different than the Star Wars movies, but it was still Star Wars. This show is that. Like the Obi-Wan show, I still, it's right up there. And I think because I love the lore and the character of Obi-Wan, and I was really happy that Hayden Christensen got to kind of redeem himself a little bit. That's kind of up there. Like, they're neck and neck. We're not going to do a top live action shows today, so I don't have to decide today, but it's really up there neck and neck. But Obi-Wan felt like Star Wars, right? It felt like it's like you could just line that up in the saga movies and make a movie out of it if you were to, so dare cut a movie out of it.
I don't know anyone who would do that.
But with Andor, it was like Star Wars, but like a different beast, very much similar to Rogue One. And I think that just kind of hit, just like you said, like there's a lot of darker, more realistic. Like I always think back to Ken Knapsack after the premiere. He did a tweet that said, "Okay, officially muting dark and gritty from
my gosh, yeah."
And because it makes, I want to say dark and gritty. Like I made a tweet a couple weeks ago where I was like, I'd love a dark and gritty take on the Clone Wars, making the droids scary like they made the Stormtroopers scary. Andor did, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that would be a really cool thing, DH, Hayden, and all that, and do a gritty Apocalypse Now style story. But so back to Andor though. Just the overall themes, like you said, you're rooting for some. It's almost like wrestling. Like you're rooting for Dedra, and then she does the heel turn, and now you're against her. And you really don't know where Luthen. Like I loved Luthen. Remember, I used to talk about how he might be one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and he still is. But like, I know he smiled at the very end, so I think Andor is good because they got to have a season 2, obviously.
Yeah.
But like I was
Fingers
really
crossed, man.
thrown off. I didn't like it even to the very end, unless you want to fix my headcanon like you did with the Trade Federation theme. That was you, right?
No.
In a Phantom Menace.
That wasn't me. I'll take credit for it, sure.
Yeah, Sean did. Or one of you guys
Might
changed
have
my
been
mind
Sean.
about the
Yeah.
Trade Federation theme in Attack of the Clones, where I hated it during the clones scene, and he came up with a
Oh, I think that was shown when we were on Settle the Score. Because we were talking about that
And he came up with
theme.
It came up on Settle
It
the
did
Score,
come up.
which
So
is a
we-
show that we were on.
Yeah. Go check
Who
it
won
out.
that? Who won
Go
that
check
match?
that
Do we
out.
know? Are we
I don't think it's aired yet. I don't think it's
It
aired
hasn't
yet.
aired yet. We don't know
It's
who
aired
won.
yet. No, I don't- but the link is in the description in case it has already aired.
But yeah, so if you want to change my headcanon about Luthen, I don't like that Luthen. This is not a criticism of the show, but like character about Luthen. How like you're talking.
Well,
about
we can get into that. What the dislikes it.
Well, it's not a
further down
dislike. I'm talking about in like how he was like you don't know who to root for and your heel turns and stuff like that. Luthen like I turned on Luthen when he wanted to kill Cassian. I just didn't like that. Like
Okay.
As a character, I like that in the show. I like the twist for him. But just like I said, so you find yourself rooting for characters and then not rooting for them. And the only one that the consistent thread line though, who you're rooting for is Mon Mothma, who's been brilliant on this show, and Cassian Andor. And their character work, Mon Mothma, I just love that they took like a Genevieve O'Reilly who, did voiceover work for Rebels, and she was in episode 3, but most of it was cut, if not all of it was cut. Then she's in Rogue One. And Rogue One, it even felt like she was doing a Caroline Blackiston impersonation, kind of, where she got to really use her acting chops in this. So far and away, the best acting probably in a Star Wars movie. Is that safe to say? So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
In a Star Wars show.
Or I mean, just in totality, if you want to call it.
Yeah, like across all of it, I think it's probably some of the best acting. And of
Shirley
course,
Henderson as Babu Frick.
yeah.
Top notch.
So yeah, to answer your question, it really ranks high up there for me across all Star Wars media. I'm interested how a rewatch would be because for me, rewatching it's sometimes the harder the movies that I don't rewatch too often are the ones that hit me the most. Like I love them, but like not to compare, but like Schindler's List is an important movie, and I watch that like once every couple years. But like I don't race to be like I got you're not throwing on Schindler's List every other day, right? And some of these episodes get so dark where you're like, it would be interesting if I'm gonna want to rewatch an arc or if I'd want to skip an episode because it's just too dark and you just get to the fun stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm excited for the rewatch when I get there with my Star Wars rewatch, which I'm doing, which I'm sure we'll talk about some other time.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. There will be some episodes that you won't want to revisit, but then there's others, particularly like the end episodes of an arc. The Eldania Highs, the Narkina 5 breakout, the season finale. Even maybe probably episode 3 when Cassian, runs off with Luthen.
Did you do a rewatch?
I have. I've
How was
rewatched
it?
the series like 3 times.
So how is it like when you
It's
rewatch?
okay. So an interesting thing happened here. My roommate, I got him to start watching Andor, and first day, I don't know if I've already told this story. Maybe I have or not. First day, we watched episode 1, and he's like, "You know what? I'm good."
You told us off air, but not here.
Okay, I just said off
So
air.
they haven't heard it.
So he watches one episode, and then he's like, "I'm gonna go to bed." I was like,
How pissed are you?
What? So then, like the next day, we watched the second episode, and he's like, "Yeah, all right." I'm like, "Wait, you don't even want to watch the third episode? It wraps it all up." And he's like, "Oh, that's okay." I was like, "All right, well, I'm not trying to like push him, in the direction he's already watching. That's great." So then we watched the third episode, and it was great. And then we ended up watching episode 4, then 5, and then 6, because you have to. If you start the Eldani arc, I'm compelled to finish this through, like see it through. And then he watched 7, took a break, which is reasonable. That's the break episode, the bridge episode. And then from there on out, we just did the arcs. And the Narkina arc, and then the bridge, and then the final 2, which she ended up watching kind of almost in real time. He caught up to the finale like the day before. And so watching it that way was really, really interesting. But before that, I was already rewatching the arcs in 3 episode chunks the way it was constructed. And that is really, really satisfying. I kind of wish, that's actually one of my dislikes of the show, is I wish they would have just released the arcs on a week-to-week basis.
Or not that, like an interesting thing would be like once a month. Like
Maybe
right?
even
like, or
once
once
a
every
month.
3 weeks,
Or
'cause
every
you don't
other
wanna,
week,
like,
yeah, every other week maybe.
Like you imagine that where like you just sit on an arc.
Could have been.
Yeah.
But for my overall thoughts, I think the show did a lot in terms of adding a new flavor of Star Wars storytelling. It's definitely more grounded, more gritty, more dark, more adult themed. I mean,
Ken didn't hear half of that sentence. He muted you. Those terms.
But I mean, it's all those things, and it's for a more mature audience. This is, to me, it's kind of like a adult version of Star Wars Rebels, and because I was thinking about kind of the comparisons between like Hera as a rebel leader and
Someone's knocking at the door.
someone's knocking at our door.
This is
You know what, Brandon? Just open the door.
Open the door. Why
Open
not?
the door.
Let's just see
open
what
the door.
happens. This is Patreon content.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, yep, yep.
Come on in.
Chatter?
Yeah, he's in the back. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
No problem.
no worries.
No worries.
Special guest appearance.
We'll have to pay you for that appearance. You showed up on the screen there.
Yep, that's my landlord. So that's
Do you have a permit to shoot here, or are we getting shut down?
you know, who know? You know, I don't. This
program.
This is all just.
On program.
Do not cut this out, bro. You cannot cut this out.
I mean,
this is great.
I don't know for who though. I mean,
You make a short of this, it's going to break short.
This will be a separate thing. This will be a separate thing.
The time the landlord walked in on the shoot.
Yeah, I'm like, and he's knocking there twice, and he's just like maybe.
Well,
I thought maybe it was like someone delivering food. I couldn't see through the.
Pro for you, because you kept going like you.
I know you guys were
and
losing.
I kind of looked at you and I was starting to crack a smile, and you were just going. I'm like, that's the professional of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think. Let's see, where was I at now?
I feel like you're getting evicted. That's what he said when he was walking.
Oh, well, we had a good run. What I really appreciate about the show was it was more than just about Andor the character. It was really about the beginnings of the rebellion, and I'm glad it went through. It introduced us to all these other characters, because that what really made the series interesting was there's a lot more characters to get invested in, which they did a tremendous job with. And if it was just about Andor, I could see how this show would have just gotten a little bogged down in like his day-to-day life, and it would be a completely different show. But the fact that they decided to use this as an opportunity to show the beginnings of the rebellion, I think is probably the strongest strength of this show. Okay. Any
you
other
think
thoughts?
when the trailer came out that they were going to have a full episode of him as a kid on? Oh man.
No, those actually all they felt very
Kenari.
flashback to me. Yeah,
Kenari, yeah.
So long guy.
Those did feel like a flashback to me. I was like, "There's no way."
Oh, I totally
we're
thought
gonna
they were
get.
gonna-
Did you really?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to go Batman Begins style. I thought it was going to be like, oh, we're going to get an origin, like an origin thing. But I'm glad we didn't.
I mean, he did say he's been in this fight since he was 6 years old, and now he's like a grown man, like 5 years out from Rogue One, and now he joins.
Okay,
the
he didn't say
rebellion?
which
Yeah, are
fight.
they gonna figure that out?
Seems
He didn't
sus.
say. He didn't say which fight. How many fights?
Which fight was it, Frank?
well,
He-
this
The
fight,
fight of
against-
his life.
just looking for his sister and like doing masonry.
Are you
probably.
going to complain about the Death Star timing of the shield, the thing too? Because I thought you were a proponent against that. We'll get to that later.
You see, they had issues with it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why
they
they
had
had
to
to
take it
bring
back.
in Galen Erso. They had to take the dish out after putting it back. Trust me, I do this all
So
the
why
time
don't you do the
at
head
work.
do the head
All
cannon for the
time.
fight in this first year 6?
What?
Fix my head cannon for he's been in this fight since we were 6. We were 6. He was 6.
I don't know. We're gonna have to see a Andor season 3 that goes even further back.
Andor, the high school, the preschool years.
the preschool years.
played by a different actor, played by Alden Ehrenreich.
Okay.
No, you know what? I don't think. I think we're
let's
done with
reuse
Star
him
Wars.
for every recast. We should just throw in Alden Ehrenreich.
Greedo, a Star Wars story.
Alden Ehrenreich in green makeup.
Yeah. Who is it? Yeah.
He would look just as much like Harrison Ford that he would look like Greedo. Oh, just kidding. I don't know. I'm trying to do a hot take. I liked Alden Ehrenreich, but I
do
know
too,
that
actually.
people didn't think he looked enough like Harrison Ford. Like, remember that one kid who? What was his name? He was in Age of Adeline, and he played a young Harrison Ford.
Anthony Gruber.
Anthony and Gruber, and he tried out for it.
What a
Poor
wild
guy.
movie, first of all.
Yeah.
The first time I ever saw that movie was on a plane, and I was just trying to read people's mouths because there was no subtitles on the screen. But I was like, Harrison Ford? I like that guy.
Young Harrison.
I like you too, Frank.
There's some cool. If you want to go down the rabbit hole before, sorry, you get to the next thing. Is if you type in deep fake and like just do deep fake for everything. They had deep fakes for Ewan McGregor as old Obi-Wan as young Ewan Obi-Wan, and then they have one where Anthony Gruber is as young Han Solo. They have Harrison Ford as young Han Solo. They deep fake everything, dude. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's deepfakes these days are really that's scary. It's some really scary stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna deep fake this episode. I'm actually Frank this whole time.
Wow,
Yeah,
and I'm
been
actually
Kevin.
Sean.
Oh,
I'm Kevin, guy.
One other thing I did want to
hell of a
say
Kevin.
All
about
flats.
Mambo style.
I like to dip it in the sauce.
the last thing I would say about season 1 is that I think even if this was like the only season of the show, I think they did enough with Cassian and setting up the makings of the rebellion and Mon Mothma kind of giving her struggles, and there's this guy Luthen out there that was kind of responsible for the beginning. So I think if this was for whatever reason just going to be the one season they did it this way, I would have been satisfied even with the ending that we had with Luthen.
You
and Cassian.
nailed it, by the way. I think I forgot to say that last week, that I thought that this was a good. It could be like if season 2 didn't happen, like it's enough where like this is a story and you could watch it, because I'm doing this big Star Wars rewatch where I'm going to watch everything, and it's like, yeah, that you would then it would describe how we get to see him at the Ring of Kafrene with Tivik. Like, okay, we don't know everything that happened afterwards and where Luthen is. I'm just saying I'm glad we're getting to season 2, but you're right. They did wrap this up in such a bow that if there's the end of the world due to nuclear warfare or something like that,
yes,
we're good. We got our season, and
I was really worried. I'm like, oh god, there's a nuclear holocaust. At least we got to send it.
Yeah, that's the first time when the Flash happens. I'm gonna be like, oh, at least I got my Andor.
Because it's gonna
As you're
take,
looking
like,
at the Death Star explosion coming towards you,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like,
you're gonna think of Jin. And,
I'll hug my wife,
Cassian.
and I'll hug my wife, and I'll play the score on my soundtrack as L.A. is getting annihilated by fire and
you'd be
brimstone.
like, you look at her, and be like, George Lucas would be proud. They nailed it.
You think George would have been proud? I think so. I want to ask you guys about your favorite arcs, because there's a few, right?
Oh, I thought a lot about this. Yeah,
Did you?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Is that
What's
the
your
question?
answer now? What's your answer now?
Oh,
Yeah, if you thought a lot about it, it should come right.
I love prison movies, so the prison story
love
is
prison.
I love prison. I'd be a horrible prison inmate, but I would just be scared and get my ass kicked all the time. But I love prison movies, and I love the arc. And I wanted to show my wife, actually. She's kind of into Star Wars right now. She's helping me with this rewatch. It's the third time I've mentioned this rewatch. I'll stop. But the challenge with Andor is I was like, okay, I don't think she's steeped up enough in the lore yet to like watch like and appreciate the first couple episodes, but she could get into she would get into the storytelling with the prison scenes, right? But you can't really do that because they do intercut with a lot, and I'm like, oh, now I gotta go. She's not gonna understand anything that's happening at this dinner party with Mon, so I decided to stop and just wait until we catch up together. But yeah, I would say the prison thing. I just thought that it introduced Kino Loy, who my close personal friend now. If you saw my Twitter, my good pal Andy Serkis. That's actually a photo. I was having some fun. That's a photo that was taken right after The Force Awakens. And if you look closely at that picture, I tweeted a picture of me meeting Andy Serkis. I was on a run, and I was running by this hotel. Look at me name dropping and pick it up. And I see Andy Serkis. And if you notice, I'm sweating, and I told him, like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And he's like, sure. And other people were catching him to, like, sign posters of, like, The Force Awakens. And
Okay.
Right? And, like, you could just, like, he would even kind of made a comment, like, he had to sign, like, a bunch for one person. He's like, he said a joke to me, like, that's going straight to eBay or whatever. But, and then I was like, well, I'm kind of sweaty. I just want a picture. I'm a big fan of your Hobbit and all that and stuff, or of your Gollum and stuff. And I'm excited, for the Snoke character where that goes, without the Last Jedi killing him and cutting him in half quickly. But he put his arm. I was like, I'm sweaty, and he put his arm on my. I was really sweaty in that photo, by the way. Put his arm on it, and I was like, oh, sorry, man. He's like, no worries, mate. And we took the picture. He's a really cool
Called
dude.
him mate.
Yeah, he called me mate. He's a really nice dude, and he confirmed for me even back then that Kino Loy is Snoke. The sequel.
Take it easy.
Yeah, so
On program?
anyways,
My roommate's in the back, just dying right now. He's literally on the floor. The floor.
this is part 2 of our
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, yeah, he was a really cool guy, and and so I used that opportunity to make a joke about him being Snoke. But yeah, the prison, to answer your question, the prison thing, because I just thought that we had no idea, by the way, that Circus was in the show. Remember
Yeah,
that
that was a
first
complete
episode that he showed
surprise,
up?
yeah.
We were just like, what? He's in it? So I just thought that was a cool thing, that even if you watch the trailers, they were able to keep that and surprise
Which
you.
goes to show you, if they want to keep casting news secret, Disney/Lucasfilm, they can do it. Because remember when like all the casting news was breaking for Mando season 2, and it was like all these, and we're like, we kind of like figured it out, but like,
3, baby.
if they want to keep things quiet,
They could.
they could do it.
And they did that here, and it reminds me of a fan trailer I saw of episode 3 where they hide in the fan trailer that Anakin turns bad. It's a really interesting idea, and they do a couple clever edits that you never know that Anakin turns bad. And I think that in the
I think I've seen this. Yeah,
I think in the modern era of storytelling, I don't think they would spoil it right away. If episode 3 came out before everything else, like if it was in order, they
Right.
would hide it for at least
Oh,
for
you
the
absolutely-
premiere.
absolutely
So
would.
it's a really cool trailer. Maybe I'll find a link for you guys. But
Honestly,
yeah.
it's hard to look at it from that perspective because we've known from the beginning that this kid grows up to be Darth Vader. But could you imagine if the prequels did come out first? Just like in the third movie of a trilogy, all of a sudden the main hero that you've been following the whole time just like snaps and just like starts killing everybody.
Yeah,
I dated a
that's
girl
messed up.
that somehow had never seen any of the Star Wars, and she did not know the twist. This was back in 2005, 2006, 2006. And so we watched it in order: Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and then Revenge of the Sith. And so I was like, she wasn't that into Star Wars anyway, but like, yeah, when the Order 66, she was like, "What is going on here?" You're right. Like, imagine like you have if Neo turned like in the third Matrix movie, just all of a sudden started slaughtering everybody because he wanted to save Trinity's life.
Yeah, that would have been messed up. Brandon,
Yes.
favorite arc of Andor. What's it gonna be?
Covenant.
I was gonna say my favorite arc of all time, probably of the Covenant. Yeah, Noah's Ark, maybe number 2, and
The arc reactor.
The Arc Reactor. I was gonna say the
call.
Golden Arches from McDonald's,
You know what?
but that's kind of like
Fair.
How about Arc 2D2?
because those are just words that sound similar but are different.
That's not bad, but
That's sure. Yeah. I give up. I'll let you talk now.
Peppermint Arc, because it's the holidays. I don't know.
what is? I don't.
I don't know if you guys know, but it's the holidays officially. It's
Did you steal that? Didn't you steal that
I stole this.
for the non-podcast
yeah.
listeners?
I'm holding up. They forgot to take the little plastic thingy off.
Magnetic
Doesn't that
thing.
blow up with paint if you walk
it's
near
got
him?
it's got ink in it for
So
sure.
you could never walk by that restaurant. You could never
don't know.
walk by that store. You walk by with Sabrina, and all of a sudden you just blow up. And
I'm gonna try to hit it with a big magnet later and see if it comes off, but I don't really know.
Yeah, and he's the smartest one of us all. All right.
And of course, we have our holiday calendar.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll
get
get
to
to
that
that
later.
soon enough.
Us.
We'll deal with you and your rebel friends soon enough.
Well done.
Yeah.
Clever. That's Jurassic Park. Anyways,
Favorite arc, Brandon?
favorite arc, I would have to agree with Kevin. I think it's the prison arc. I really enjoyed it. I thought the first arc of this the show started off a little slow. We're first on Ferrix and picks up, I think, when the Aldani heist gets going. But I really thought it really impacted me the most emotionally once we got to that prison arc. Especially the final episode where they break out of the prison, and everything with Kino Loy is amazing. Yeah, I might have to buy one of those posters on eBay that Kevin was talking about.
My
Very
favorite
good.
arc is not the prison arc. It's so great though. It's
Did
really
I guess
great.
yours?
Yeah, why not? There's only 3 other ones you can think. You have a 33% chance of getting
It's
it right.
actually the bridge episode where he goes back to Ferrix.
I think you were really moved by the final arc.
I almost picked that one.
Oh,
I didn't, but I picked the Aldani arc, and it's because while the final arc is as much a spark of the rebellion,
spark of an arc.
spark arc, right? Arky Sparky. The Aldani arc is like a rebellion operation, and I thought that was just really fascinating. And not to mention the dynamics in play about if you're in the early stages of a rebellion, who can you trust? Cassian comes in, months later when they've been there, and they're like, well, how can you bring in someone? And they're all super skittish, and I just thought it was an interesting way to show if you're starting up a rebellion, how on edge everybody is about the Imperial, machine finding out who you are, what you're doing. Also, just the entire heist sequence was incredibly executed. I said it was like heat in space. It was the town, the whole visual escape of it all, through the eye. I mean, it was just like instant, iconic Star Wars imagery. The whole execution of that sequence and just following the journey. And then you meet Nemec there, which is a big factor in terms of Cassian's development, just as much as the Narkina prison was. But Nemec, his words will live on, at least through Cassian. We'll see what ultimately becomes of the manifesto, I guess, if anything else outside of Cassian. But that's why I really, really, really enjoyed the Aldhani arc. And I was like, man, this is the rebellion. This is what it takes. This is what it looks like. When you get to A New Hope, you're like, oh, they've scored their first, they scored their first big win over the Empire. And,
Who had the big win at the Empire?
Yeah, the what?
Who scored the first win for the Empire or against the Empire? Who scored the first win?
Who scored the first win against the Empire?
In A New Hope.
In A New Hope?
I was queuing him up.
Luke
had it easy.
I was like, is this a Tim joke?
Probably.
But so that's what I really liked the Aldhani arc. But the finale arc, I
thought that would be because
it encompasses more of my favorite moments from the show, which we'll get into. In a little bit.
The Aldhani arc, it is extremely, I think, important to just this lore of Star Wars, and the rebellion, because they kind of, I would have to take a deeper look into all the rebels and all the books and stuff, but
what's that voice? Who's that voice?
It seemed like
who's that voice?
I just
book
did a
nerds.
voice.
You think book nerds sound like that?
This is what book nerds. I like to read. I don't like to watch TV. I like to use my brain, dude.
But what I'm trying to say,
Smartest of us three. Again, I asked you
allegedly.
Even your callback game today is tight. You like it when I call out things, segues and stuff.
But what I'm trying to get at is they really made it seem like in this show that the Aldhani heist was the first time that the rebellion showed the galaxy that they could make the Empire hurt.
Yeah, make them bleed. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when I remember that scene where people are looking. Didn't Mon Mothma or someone looked at her? It's been a while since I've seen it now, but near the end of that episode where people were looking at their news reports, oh my god,
whoa,
and
what
everybody
just
was leaving
happened?
Senate, right?
They were all on Twitter and they were like, wait, first of all, this is crazy.
They're like, wait, cocaine bear, but wait, also, wait,
like they weren't another terrorist attack. They were holy crap, I thought the Empire was supposed to be safe.
Yeah, that's true.
And even when you get the vibes from
The first time this has ever happened.
from Perrin when he's talking with Mon and Tay, and he's like, yeah, they're gonna regret it. He was so offended that rebels would go against the Empire. So kind of gives you the level of attitude that parts of the galaxy that are within the Imperial reach, what they had.
It's yeah. I don't mean to stop you, Frank, but just it's super interesting, kind of to build off of what I was saying earlier about how everything's so morally gray. It's I feel like you have people in the rebellion that are not good people, but they're doing the right thing by fighting against the Empire. I forget the dude's name that Cassian shoots because he wants to steal the money.
Oh, Skeen.
Skeen.
Yeah, that's a character I was. When
he looks like a Skeen. That's a bad person. He is not a good person.
His name says it all.
But he helped them pull off this heist. He fought for the rebellion.
Yeah.
And you look at someone
he was going to take all the money and run, so he didn't do anything for the rebellion.
But imagine though if everyone had survived. I don't know that he could have. How would he have gone about that? That would have been interesting.
Maybe he was trying to just take advantage of the situation after it happened.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you totally did your homework, bro. You did. Don't act like you didn't prepare.
I do my homework all
I'm
the
quoting
time,
you
dude.
from the Settle the Score, man. Oh no, you didn't study. That was you.
But you look at someone like Luthen, and he's clearly committed to the cause of the rebellion, which is a good cause. But based on his deeds, is he a good person? Probably not. You probably consider him to be a bad person. He's a bad person doing bad things for the greater good. And then you look at people in the Empire who they're victims of the system. They think that the Empire is the good guys, right? And
Right.
it's like you look at someone like Cyril, it's like, yeah, that dude's probably like an evil incel, literally living with his mom. But at the same time, it's like, look at like his deeds in the show. It's like, has he done anything inherently evil? Like he thinks he's the good guy. Like he wanted to like get Cassian because he murdered like 2 of his like fellow officers, and he's just going after his girlfriend. You know, he saved her life.
I mean,
Going a little real world here, kind of dark, but like I used to always think like, yeah, like, and I remember when Obi-Wan, they had the character voiced by Zach Braff, I think, who was like an alien trucker. And he was like they were trying to make him like a MAGA, like, you know, I'm pro Empire.
Yeah,
and I think it was like the first time you ever saw that, like regular citizens who would like back the Empire. And you think like,
and then Alien too.
Yeah. But how could that be possible? But again, I just because of the situation and my ethnicity of my wife, like I've been following the Ukraine-Russian war very heavily. And there's one site that all they do is show intercepted calls from the Ukrainian intercepting Russian calls with their family. And also just as a personal thing, they are cut off from like real news. So like we have to get my wife's family the real news in conversations. And even that we have to kind of be a little, we don't leave text or a trail. It's like if we can talk, because they're not given the truth at all. Like Russia right now is getting their ass kicked in Ukraine, like upwards, like they're going to lose 100,000 lives by the end of this year. No one in Russia is being told that on the propaganda thing. And it just really made me realize how much, and that's another thing about the realism of Andor, of just making it like how the Empire, there are those that are so brainwashed because they're probably just fed. That's all they can have. They're not having access to that. And they are literally thinking that they're the good guys because they think that that's what the new order is. That Palpatine, you know, in that dinner party when they were talking about, like Palpatine's looking out for us and stuff like that. Like, and again, it's just real world things. These things can happen because right now it's happening in the real world. And believe me, from someone who's dealing with it with my family, it's happening. And it is crazy to think that something as wild as like the Empire could be a real thing. Kind of is, and I'm not trying to say that minimize the war and saying that Putin is the emperor and the Russians are empire. I'm not saying that, because there are good people dying over there too that did not wish to be drafted there, and I'm not trying to get political on it. But what I'm saying is the ability of empire or a force to literally take over and and people literally under that regime are convinced that that's the right way to go. And like what a hard thing it is to rebel against it. No one wants to rebel in Russia right now because they're afraid that they would get killed or arrested and their families would get arrested. And imagine the balls that these rebels have to like break that and like finally form this rebellion, which I'm hoping we see in season 2, like as a coalition.
Right. And that's like one of the great things about Star Wars is like you could look at it from so many different perspectives. Like in a lot of ways, like you could see the Empire as the United States in a lot of cases too. You know, like we like to think that we're the rebellion and that like we're all Luke Skywalker, but sometimes that's not so much the case. So it's like, it's just kind of like, and that's good. It kind of like makes you look at things just from like a more like objective, like kind of like step outside of the situation. And like, hopefully it just helps us all like reflect inwards on ourselves, kind of like how Captain America doesn't represent America, but what America's supposed to be.
Sure.
You know? And I think those types of lessons can be found in Star Wars.
Yeah, I think Star Wars does that a lot in terms of the lessons it's trying to teach. And it comes in many different forms in the movies and the shows, books, what have you. That's something that Star Wars has always done. But something that Star Wars has always done.
Here it comes.
Is giving us some new favorite characters.
By the way, how was my answer without any homework? It was good, right?
Yeah.
Sounded like he did his homework today.
But you know, as I ask about...
I didn't do any reading up on Ukraine. That's for sure.
As I asked about favorite characters, I started making a list. I'm like all these characters are like B2 Emo, Brasso, Bix, Cassian, Easy, Kino, Lutzen, Vel. These were like all characters that I want to learn more about, go on more adventures with, and so it's like it's practically the whole cast, and like obviously like, you know, my Mothma as well.
Have you ever hung out with a friend that like went through a breakup and they're like depressed and they're sad and it kind of brings you down? You want to go on adventures with B2? Where he would just be like hanging out with that buddy that just like his wife left him and the kids.
This is nice.
Oh,
but
that's great. Now
where's
we're on
Marva?
we're on a road trip. Oh, hey, let's go. We're going to Vegas. Okay.
Marva loved Vegas.
Should we stop in Barstow? Oh, that Del Taco. We went to that Del Taco.
I ain't going back to Barstow.
Are you done?
Yeah. Done.
Okay.
Was that the approximate length of a short? Is that going to make a short?
No.
Oh, we got to make it a little longer? No, I'm kidding.
But I mean, I don't know. Any other characters stick out to you where you really wanted to spend more time with them because the show was jumping around a lot and it didn't focus entirely on casting as we've kind of mentioned before. I don't know. What are some of your favorite characters, Kevin?
I liked Luthen, obviously.
Yeah.
And I do like what his character's doing. I'm not happy with where he was about halfway through the season, but I like that slight smile at the end. So I'm thinking that it's going to be cool to see him at with Cassian next season. I actually do. I have fun with B2, but I appreciate there's a new droid and a lot of people like him. But I think
everyone likes him. Everyone
except that one guy in the Empire that kicked him.
Yeah.
Well,
that's my favorite character. The guy that kicked and knocked over B2MO.
No.
That's my favorite character. Mark it here. He has horrible aim with his jacket, and he just only made that message even more dramatic. But you know what? Marva. It's got to be Marva.
Yeah.
My trinity would be Marva, Luthen, and Brasso, the badass.
man, Brad's awesome.
You didn't say your love, dude.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did, but you didn't really.
See how quickly I answered you?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I did.
Yeah, but you said it really. You're downplaying it, dude. Don't
Like
act.
Brasso, Marva,
Don't
Bix,
low play
Tim,
Bix.
Cyril.
Brandon, what's some characters that stood out to you?
Yeah, I think the great thing about all these characters that we've named so far, it's like 3 months ago, like this would have been gibberish to me, but now I'm like saying them in like the same breath as like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, and it's like man, could you imagine like Brasso like fighting alongside Yoda in the Clone Wars with just like a brick in his hand?
But you know what? These characters, it's also about like the story that's been told with them, with these characters that helps build the characters. Obviously, the way we get incredible stories with Luke and Obi-Wan and Han and Leia and all that, and these characters do get the same treatment. They go through similar trials and tribulations, just on a more intimate, smaller scale, where it's the real world aspect of it all, the realness of it all that contributes to these characters actually being probably a little bit more relatable on a day-to-day basis, especially for someone or whether it's other countries around the world going through civil wars or in actual other wars, having been even when you look at the beginning of the series with Cassian in terms of being profiled more or less, there's that remark about, I bet he swam over here, in regards to Mexican immigrants coming to the U.S. Like there's a lot of relatable moments that are peppered throughout this series that with these characters that you can connect to. A lot of people will connect to someone maybe like Marva, and their relationship towards their son. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, which is what I think is one of the biggest strengths of this series.
Did you have a not favorite character? Like a character? Like that's the good thing. And I say that facetiously, but I don't think there's any one note character, right?
Yeah.
There's no character that you're like, oh, that was like one note. You know how like Reva like split the fan base and stuff like that? I don't feel like anybody was unhappy with like a certain character aside from I guess me and B2, but I feel like they stuck the landing in the finale, and I think that they nailed every character. I can't really think of one. I was happy to see Yularen back. But like, I don't think there was any one note.
Yeah, there wasn't like,
villain
I despise this character. There was characters I was like, man, they did a really good job of making them a bad guy.
Yeah,
and I think they did that to pretty much all of them, except for I will say Predegaz, because he's a little bit more, the teacher type. So he kind of hid behind that kind of facade. So you don't get an idea for how evil he is, even though he is extremely, because he calls people literally in the Empire a disease, and we eradicate the disease, so that's our job. But you don't see him like in the field like the way we ended up seeing Dedra and other Imperials, like Tigo, I think was his name.
He's clearly like an evil person, but like in like a really scary way, where like he seems nice sometimes.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's like kind of like mentoring Deidre, and like it's like, oh yeah, like I wish this guy was my boss. Like like he's helping her like climb the corporate ladder. Like
Right.
he sees right through the bullshit of that other guy.
Right.
That's like trying to like undermine her, and like he's like, hey, this is what you gotta do. I'm helping you out. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, we killed all of these rebels,
Anto Krieger
and all of his 30 or 50 people, and
45. Let's just put it
45,
40, just put the
43,
difference. Yeah.
42 and a half rebels, and he's just like so cold about it. He's just like, yeah, we killed them, all of them. They're dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, the emperor can rest easy tonight.
Yeah, people that have no regard for life are really scary to me. Like, and there are a lot of real life figures out there historically and stuff like that where like it just baffles me because like as a kid, like I used to like feel guilt if I like stepped on like a roly poly. Do you know what a roly poly is? Yeah. I would feel like guilt from that. Or like I just can't like and I say that as I love chicken wings, and I guess that those chickens just come from nowhere. Yeah, I mean they're obviously from chickens, but I'm getting real deep with some of my
So I think about that sometimes, but I do love chicken.
Yeah.
I want to move on to favorite moments.
I can't eat lamb though. They're
No?
just like
That's the taste.
Too gamey. Too gamey.
I don't know. You ever just see like a lamb? Like they're just like all fluffy and.
Well,
I don't
look at
think
them before I eat them.
where are you ordering it where the lamb still has fur on it
I just like when they're alive on the farm.
or hair? Is it fur?
This is not the show for that.
Hopefully your landlord walks in with again.
Oh my
That'll
gosh,
save
that
me.
was incredible.
Yeah.
Favorite moments.
And by the way, Tim is the best character. I don't think I said that.
Okay.
There it
I
is.
don't think
All
I
right,
said
Brandon.
that.
Very
Makes
good.
the best. Me and him share an affinity for calf.
Wow,
Yeah.
look at that.
We like to woo our women by making them a nice cup of calf in the morning.
Well, okay. I asked in the
And I would call
okay.
I would call the Empire if my girlfriend's ex showed up.
You would?
Yeah, I'd call the Empire.
You call the cops on
You're a
him?
rat, dude.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
This is.
See,
Here's what happens. When
I
you
didn't
talk
know
too
he's
much.
a rebel.
You get yourself in trouble.
I just know
I
he's trying to
talking
steal.
about dead chickens. You're talking about.
I just
ratting
know
your
that he's
friends
trying
out.
to steal my girl, man. Not my friend. I don't know this guy.
You're not that insecure. Come on.
I'm just trying to defend.
There are plenty of fish out in the sea, and there's always a bigger fish.
Always a bigger fish.
Okay, so I try to ask you guys come up with 3 favorite moments in our run sheet. Yeah, and so
3 favorite moments.
I got my
I
one.
just
Easy.
just stick with one. I'll give you my 3 right now, and,
Well, yeah,
and
I
then
want-
maybe
no,
and then you can just.
I want
copy
to give
mine,
you
Kevin.
one before. I'm
Okay.
not copying you.
Oh, you
want
want
to
to
want you to think I'm copying.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I can do
What
my
do you
3.
got?
I can do my 3. I can do my 3. The Marva speech.
Sure.
The
You can't pick all the speeches. Okay?
I'm not doing the speeches. No more speeches.
The Marva speech, the Brasso speech when he's saying what
and
Marva
the Lucid
said.
speech. No, the Marva
the other
speech,
time that Marva
the
talked.
Marva speech, the never more than 12, and then
Sure.
I loved in the Aldani arc. I did my research. I didn't do my research, but that's how good I am. And then I love the escape with the
eye?
the eye, and
Yeah.
that phenomenon that's going on. That was very unique.
The eye.
And yeah, I know. I'm just trying to call it a phenomenon. I'm trying to be scientific. Wouldn't you call it a phenomenon? A spatial phenomenon?
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Yeah. Anyways, those are my 3 things.
Okay.
How's that for no homework, bitches?
Rudimentary at best.
Good picks. Good picks.
What? I thought
What do you
I
got,
was
Brandon?
good.
What do you got?
Yeah, those are all really good picks.
I, to be honest, I already forgot what my picks were.
Never more than 12 is so
Yeah.
good. But I feel like just to like take that a step further and go into, I know like Sean wasn't the biggest fan of Kino's speech to the prisoners over like the intercom system.
Yeah.
I really was like super emotional just watching that entire episode play out, and
Remind you of that time you broke out of prison?
yeah, it was like yesterday,
Really connected
man.
with your prison
I really
experience?
connected with it. I too met like an older gentleman who was in all my favorite movies, and he helped me escape a prison. But he was like hesitant at first. But then I asked him like, "How many guards?" And he was like, 24, sometimes 25. And I was like, so you're in?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm in. What's up?"
Are you having a stroke right now?
What's going on? Again, the smartest of us all.
But I really love that moment, the way he starts out like unsure of himself, and then
Yeah.
Cassian gives him like a little boost, and then he finds his confidence along the way, just to find the right words to say.
Great speech.
Great speech, great moment, great acting. Andy Serkis was so good in this. The eye escape, that probably would have been another one, but I don't want to copy Kevin. So I think,
Keep your hands off my paper.
yeah, I'm not looking
your eyes
I'm not looking at
off
your
my
work.
paper.
I'm not looking at your
Oh, yeah.
work.
I said hands.
Yeah.
It's been a tough week. Sorry.
I'm trying to think of like a good Mon Mothma moment.
Should have did the homework, huh?
Yeah, I mean, one really good line that she gives is when she talks about like, oh, well, I learned from Palpatine to.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I do have another section for quotes.
Oh,
so
okay. I'll hold off.
I'll
hold off.
No, you can't. You already used it. So sorry, I'm not giving him any
game.
advantages.
It's not a
It's a game. At the end of this episode, you're going to tell us who performed
How many
best.
points?
I'm probably screwed.
But
so.
she's like, what is it? She said like, show them the rock in your hand so they
see
miss
the
the knife at your throat.
Oh, it's a phenomenal quote. It
It's
is
so
really
good. And
is.
it's like perfectly.
Don't you want to hear Palpatine say that?
Perfectly. Yeah, right. She's
you
like, I
do it?
learned it from
Say it.
Palpatine. Like,
verbatim.
Hello, my galactic senators. Today's lesson in galactic tyranny is show them the rock in your hand so they miss the knife at your throat. Not that you would need a knife because I have laser fingers.
Sir, what is the two birds in a hand are better than the birds in the bush?
Silence!
That's not even how it goes.
I know. I butchered that joke. It would
Okay.
have been really funny.
Troopers, that's a Jedi. Shoot him.
You're still thinking over there.
well, I was too busy doing a bit, and now I gotta
Now you're exhausted.
Okay.
Well, let him
recenter
do his
myself.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. So then maybe you can.
thing. If you
come
copy
up
any of
I've got
mine,
one
did
more.
I get any of yours?
No.
Got one more.
Well, then you don't
'cause
know
I
the
wanna-
best.
I went
You
a
don't know
little
the
bit-
best 3 moments, guy.
I went a little bit deeper, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
deeper. All right,
No.
so-
All right. So this one is probably gonna be. You're gonna be like, what? But one of my favorite moments actually is when Cassian holds Cyril at gunpoint and Luthen is in the room with them, and this is. I really like this moment because this really informs Cyril of how dangerous Cassian is, because they're literally playing around with whether or not they should kill him. And Luthen's like, I'll do it. And the whole time Cyril is scared out of his mind that Cassian's going to kill him. Meanwhile, there's Luthen who's like, yeah, I'll do it, right? So to me, that moment is so informative for Cyril and how badly he must capture Cassian, because that can't happen to anybody else. That's what like fuels him, I think, you know, at least in the beginning of the series.
Refresh my memory. How does Cyril get out of that? Does Cassian decide
They
not to
tie him
kill
up. They tie him up.
So Cassian's the one who says, let's not kill him. So why would Cyril be after him then? Like, wouldn't he be like, thanks, dude, for not killing me?
Well, I mean, we don't see what happened. They cut away, and
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
time we see Cyril, he's tied up. So
Maybe
we
he's
don't
trying to catch
know.
up with Cassian. He just wants to shake his hand and say, thank you for saving
yeah,
me.
that's what it is.
I think fight these bastards for real. That's my third.
There you go.
Third moment.
There you go.
That's,
That's a
a
good one.
quote. That's a quote.
No,
bro.
that's a whole sequence.
The whole sequence. That
I
whole
summed it up.
Yeah.
You can't do speeches.
My other favorite moment is Brasso when he
Hits the
bricks
guy
the
with the
Imperial.
brick.
Phenomenal moment. I mean, that's gonna live rent free in my head for a long. It's so great.
Talking about him and Yoda earlier makes me want to do my own fan fiction. Where
Do it.
Yoda's standing down against Brasso, and he's like, "If so powerful you are, why leave?" And then Brasso just smacks him with a brick.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not just a brick; it's Marva,
It's Marva's
right?
brick.
Yeah,
it's like
Marva's
taking,
brick, yeah,
it's
just-
like if
they
after
did it-
she's
after
fighting
Qui-Gon
rebellion.
died,
She's
after
rebelling.
Qui-Gon died, if Obi-Wan took Qui-Gon and just whacked them all, and he fell into the chasm with Qui-Gon's body.
How
Bam!
I just want the audience to realize how great my moments have been because they could not help but talk about them afterwards.
Hold on a second.
How strong is that brick? It did not break. It did not break. That
It
brick.
did not.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the body composition seals it.
I mean, my
It's fine.
final.
I should do a physics thing on that because I don't feel like the brick.
I feel like you've been saying that for weeks about
the brick,
certain other stuff.
No, I'm working on
Yeah.
that. I'm
Okay.
working
Yeah, what
on
happened to that?
Oh, it's coming.
Okay.
Maybe next week.
We'll see. My third favorite moment is the marching band sequence, especially when they go on that final push up the street, and the music really all comes together.
And like
It's
the riot
so great.
police
Yeah,
show
I mean
up.
it's so,
So-
well done. It's a beautiful moment, very powerful, very inspiring moment. That moment really hit home for me. Hit me right in the feels. It was great.
So devil's advocate here, and
Oh,
not
boy,
to
here we
question
go.
you, but just because you questioned mine.
I didn't question anything.
Palpatine's advocate.
You literally liked Cyril at gunpoint better than like Never More
'Cause
Than
I think-
12, or are you just trying? You're just trying to say different. You're trying.
I looked at the moments
Like your
as
favorites.
Yeah, like yes. I'm not saying these are the.
No, these are your favorites. So you like personally, and I'm not questioning you.
Yes.
It sounds like I am. Maybe I am.
It sounds like you are.
You like the Never More Than 12 or the I Can't Swim. You didn't like. You like the moment of Cassian.
I
at
Can't Swim is a very sad moment.
I like
it's
a lot of
It's gonna
moments.
make me appreciate that. I'm trying to get in your head because when I see it again, I'll appreciate that much more. I'm not. I digress. I'm not trying to make you question your thing. I'm not trying to question. you.
Yeah. Here. So here's the thing. All the moments you've all said, I also love them as well. I was just coming up with other. I came up with other moments that were beyond like the typical obvious moments, right?
Gotcha.
Which I felt like someone else would have. That's so like the way I worked it was that they'll come up with it, so I won't have to say it in lieu of being repetitive.
So to quote Snape from Harry Potter and the
Open
Order,
to page
and the
390.
same movie. You insufferable know-it-all. So you're just
Sure,
you're just Hermioneing that answer is what you're trying to do.
All right, let's move on to quotes.
You have your mother's eyes.
Oh my gosh, let's move on.
You
to
have
quotes.
Marva's eyes.
That's wow,
is that B2?
imagine if that was a quote. That's incredible. But I will say, so I'm gonna hit it.
Sorry.
I'm gonna hit it real hard right now.
me in the
I
eyes,
can't,
B2.
I can't
And,
save you,
you
Padme.
have-
Sorry, I'm so sad from my master gone. I'm sorry, Padme.
Think about
you
it.
are now molten lava pole.
He'll be like, "Look me in the eyes, B2," and he's like, "You have Marva's eyes.
Oh my god.
Marva's dead.
All right,
Do
continue.
you remember when she died and you weren't there, Cassian?"
Imagine, R2-D2 escaping on Phantom Menace on the Nubian ship and fixing the hyperdrive. Hyperdrive's back. B2EMO ain't doing that. Continue.
Be like, "Oh, this thing is broken.
I'm so sad. It reminds me of Marva.
Of my
when the coffee
broken
machine
heart
broke.
when Marva died."
Frank's going to kill us.
No. Continue.
When that red light goes off today, we're going to get scolded for not doing our homework. Okay.
No. One of my favorite quotes is from Brasso or from Marva to Cassian. The line is, "Tell him I love him more than anything he could ever do wrong." Waterworks, man. When I
Great.
watched the
Just that line or the whole thing?
Well, I mean,
Quote.
yeah, I love all of that, but like this, I'm pinpointing what really
Who
like
said it, bro?
hit me.
Brasso.
I just
No,
said.
I know. I'm not. I'm trying to say who said it rules. They're not reading the whole paragraph. He's picking a
Well,
quote.
because there's other quotes from that exact same speech that I liked even more.
Well, then explain it.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
When he talks about again, I don't have the exact words in front of me
Oh,
because
well,
maybe I didn't do my homework. But when Brasso says that like the fire was coming no matter what, but you were just the spark.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
Well said.
Thank you. That's exactly how he says it in the show.
Really,
and
really, right there, right there.
And then also when he tells him that he feels everything he needs to feel and knows everything he needs to know.
Great quote.
Yeah, really good. I mean, yeah, you're right. That whole segment from Brasso, from Marva
And
through
yeah,
Brasso,
and it'll be
is-
like a unstoppable force for good.
Yeah, yeah, very well done. But yeah, the line that I picked out, that one really, really hit me the strongest. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I
Your
want to steal. I
eyes
want to
off
steal
my-
one.
I wish my mom would say stuff like that. To me.
Well, maybe if you need to, lead a rebellion, some of that stuff might be said to you. So I very much love Luthen's speech. Obviously, I think everyone pretty much universally was like, "Holy crap, that speech!" But the part that really stuck out to me, that hit me hard, was the part where he goes, "I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago, from which there's only one conclusion: I'm damned for what I do." I mean, to me, that whole section right there just encapsulates so much about Luthen the character. I mean, the speech overall is a phenomenal piece of work, but that section in particular, I think, really just accentuates what he's going through, how long he's been in this, how long he's thought about this, and what it's done to him. I think it just says everything to me in that section. So.
Confirming they do have equations in Star Wars.
Yes.
Math truly is universal.
Indeed. Kevin.
My favorite quote is "Rebellions are built on hope," which hasn't been said yet. I was really counting on it being said. You know what? I'm just gonna go with one quote because I mean I could say the other stuff like anything Nemec said. Like I enjoyed his character and I like the stuff he said about in his when you're hearing the manifesto. And I like that it's not that it's his voice. It's like a recorded.
Well, can I tell you? Actually, my other favorite quote is from the manifesto. When you're hearing it,
Look, he did his homework and I knew it already.
The imperial need for control is so desperate because it is unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. I think again, it just sums it up. You know,
I think that
so eloquently.
I would say another quote that really hit me is the very last quote of the season. Is when he's like, you came to this planet to kill me, and then he finally says, "Well, what's the game? What are you playing at?" And he's like, "Well, either kill me or take me in." And it's just so powerful. He was willing to die at that moment on a risk that he can do the greater good and be a force for good, and he was willing to risk his life to hope that Luthen would see that in him as well as Marva did. So I would say that quote it really rings true with me. And yeah, like I said, the Nemec quote. Two quotes that hit me, and obviously never more than 12, which I already used as a moment. But hey, 2 birds, 1 stone. 2 birds, 1 stone, Mr. Palpatine.
Bird in my stone. This is a dark side bird.
You get a C minus.
Wow,
That was pretty good.
Huh. What other any other quotes come to mind?
Yeah, I was gonna say that Nemec quote. I believe rings also with something that Cassian said in the prison about power.
Power doesn't panic.
Power doesn't panic. Yeah,
That's another great quote.
That's that. I think maybe that's why like Nemec's words resonated so much with him because like those 2 quotes are so similar.
Sure.
They say like basically the same thing, and he's like going like, "Crap! Like this is exactly how I think.
Yeah,
Maybe I should join the rebellion."
yeah. It's a great point. Again, I actually kind of wanted to do like a whole like Twitter thread on just like banger quotes from this show
There's
because
so many.
there are so many.
We didn't mention Saw
God.
Gerrera's quotes.
Oh,
He had a couple
again,
good
I mean,
ones in
like
there, too.
again, it was just.
Who primarily wrote this show? Because I bet they were just like sitting like in front of
obviously
their.
Tony Gilroy was a showrunner
Yeah.
and wrote on like 5 or 6
They're probably
episodes.
just sitting in front of their computer, just going like,
Bo Willem,
"Another banger."
yeah.
Oh, I'm on a freaking roll, man.
I mean, it's then that writers' room had to be insane with like the stuff. I mean, look, the writers on this show, they had shit to say. Like they were not holding any punches, and it's such a direct correlation to, I mean, as an American, to our government and the things we've been through the past half decade now. It's seemingly, it's insane what the show was able to do on a writing level, and how, especially when talking about the Imperial machine, how much that connects to our real world. And some folks, you know, don't care for that type of thing, which is kind of what I do want to get into next, was like kind of the online discourse surrounding the show. Because what's interesting is about almost any kind of conversation you tuned into or listened to, right? Everyone was like, "This is a good show. It's a good." So it's like I think it was very hard to hate or poke holes in a good show. The only way you could do it was, well, for a Star Wars show, but as a TV show in general, great show, well written, directed, acted, all of these things, cinematography. But as a Star Wars show, I didn't tick this box, this box, this box, and that's where the discourse got really, really interesting. Is because it was like, how do you be critical of a show that a lot of people find to be done really, really well? It's tough. I don't know what kind of conversation you guys were seeing out there on Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that.
I saw an interesting point from someone on YouTube that was talking about how the future of Star Wars might be difficult because some people are going to expect it to always be Andor. And so now, let's say Skeleton Crew comes out and it's not quite as, real and hard hitting. They're going to think of that, as a failure. Or, I saw when some people were trying to rank the shows, they were kind of being nasty about other shows while trying to positive. Like, you can be positive about both. Like, I understand the faults that Obi-Wan had. I helped my friend make a movie version of it. But I also don't think that Obi-Wan is terrible because Andor is great. I think that they're both great, and they serve their purposes for their own unique ways. So the discourse that disappointed me, and it was happening too with Rings of Power and Game of Thrones. Like, why can't both be great? Or maybe both aren't great. Or maybe...
A lot of people like to do, this is what this should be because they did it this way. And basically what people are doing is they're just pointing out their preference of storytelling and the way that they like to consume those types of stories, which is completely your preference. It does not mean that that's the end-all, be-all, and that's how fantasy stories should be told or sci-fi stories should be told.
And like the KOTOR fans of my movies and stuff, have you seen my movies?
I'm familiar,
a lot of the very positive comments, it sucks though, because like in one sense they're like, this is such a great, I love this game and you did such a great job. Man, Disney should hire you and fire all those idiots that are making them. Like, I hated seeing those comments because I actually like the Disney era of Star Wars too. So, I just think that I don't know if it's just all our culture right now where you can't praise one while you could prop both up if you want.
People don't know. I think some people don't know how to make an argument without tearing down something else because there can only be one, right? It's seemingly. I don't know, Brandon. What are your thoughts on how this show and the Star Wars discourse at large?
I think it all depends on like what do you like to get out of Star Wars. I think Star Wars is inherently political. I think George Lucas has flat out said that, that the Empire is the United States and the rebellion is the Viet Cong and the Vietnam War. But you could also see Palpatine's rise to power in a very similar parallel to Hitler's rise to power in Nazi Germany. And it's there for you if you want to look for it. And I think especially in Andor, there is a lot to be said about the world that we live in today. And if that is something that is maybe like therapeutic for you, for me watching it helps me like contextualize things in the real world sometimes. So if like movies and TV shows and like fiction in general are something that you go to for reflection on our own reality and your own thoughts and feelings, then this show like nails that like flawlessly. But there's also people who like Star Wars that, for like the lore and like the history of like the Jedi and the Sith and like the Force.
The escapism, really.
That's more me. I'm more the lore than the wars, I guess what I say.
Star Lord.
Star Wars.
There's like a lot of really interesting stuff there. And like you said, like the escapism, but either way, like you look at that, there's still stuff with the Force that teaches you how to reflect on your own like emotions and feelings and looking inward instead of maybe outward and all that. And it's so people look for Star Wars for different things, and some people just want to see like cool set pieces and like the hero's journey and like the princess being rescued, or maybe she's rescuing the other two guys or they're just stumbling their way through it.
Right.
Wonderful friend. I'm either really. I forget.
No.
I
It's a tough line.
retired.
It's a tough line. I would also say is this idea that
I like it all, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Star
Me
Wars.
too. I like it all.
Whether it's Rebels, which I compare Rebels and Andor. Hera is like the antithesis of what Luthen is, because I was thinking about this earlier. If Luthen's willing to sacrifice Anto Krieger and his men, and this is like the makings of the rebellion. And you look at Star Wars Rebels with Hera, like if that was exactly like, we don't leave anyone behind, we don't sacrifice people, and
Can't wait to rewatch
there
that.
are
We don't trade lives.
We don't trade. There are these
Captain America.
Yeah. There's these lessons
Which is
that
stupid, by the way. He should have traded. 4 billion people. Captain America, you
All
kill
right,
Vision.
okay.
He's not even a human. He's a robot. Kill him and save half the galaxy.
look what you did, Brandon. Look what you made him do.
They undid it.
Come on.
So
They just had to invent time travel first,
that's
but
it.
no big
Yeah,
deal.
He solved it in like 2 days.
That's
whatever.
not how the Force works.
So when and I think Star Wars tells all these
Back to the
gives all these
Future's
lessons gives all these lessons in different ways for different audiences. Rebels gives you these lessons, but for more younger crowd, where Andor is doing the same thing, but in a more mature, visceral way. And some people are looking for that escapism, and they don't, and they're like, stop being political. And it's like, yo, we've been doing this for a long time, But what's interesting about watching all this discourse and what Star Wars fans like or dislike or hate even, when you have the original trilogy, that's what got like just about everybody into it. The vast majority, of the older generation that's grown up with Star Wars, right? And then it went away, and then you get the prequels, and people lost their minds because this doesn't look like the original trilogy. That's what are you doing? And so when Disney comes along, they buy it, and they hear, the idea was we're going to wipe away the prequel taste, and bring back the Star Wars that you like, right? So what do? They make The Force Awakens, and it's pretty similar to a New Hope. So it's serving that audience that is yearning for the original trilogy days, right? But then you have people who are like, well, didn't they just kind of copy A New Hope in a sense?
Well,
and then as a creator, you're like, well, isn't that what you guys have been wanting? We just gave it to you in a different package. So then here comes The Last Jedi. Okay, you don't want the same thing. So now we're going to give you The Last Jedi, which is totally different, right? And it kind of turns things on its head. And Rian Johnson really challenges you as a Star Wars fan about the way he's presenting these stories and themes.
Father
and then
guy.
that splits the fandom even more. Like, what did you do? That's too different from Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you ruined my favorite character, Luke Skywalker, because I want to see him the way I want more of the same, but I also want
it's
different,
pronounced you raped my childhood is what
Oh my
people were
gosh,
saying.
it was just
There were
insane.
so many people saying that.
And then
They've been saying that since the prequels. There's actually like a song on like.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. So then, real quick, so Last Jedi happens, right? So then the studio goes, okay, well, let's give them what they like again. So let's do Rise of Skywalker, and we'll give you all like this fan servicey stuff in a sense, even though they still adhere to a lot of the themes. And so they kind of like, in my estimation, Rise of Skywalker tries to juggle both in one movie, as opposed to where Force Awakens was giving you that nostalgia factor. The Last Jedi is trying to do something new, and those clashes with the fandom at large. So then the Rise of Skywalker is hopefully this one that brings it all together, and it doesn't really do that. So then here comes Mandalorian. Oh, this feels like Star Wars again to me. That's the familiar. And then here comes Andor, and it's like, we want the familiar. How come there's no cameos? Like, how come you don't have people popping in that I know about? And it's like, because Mandalorian's bringing in Bo-Katan and Ahsoka, and you get little Grogu, Baby Yoda, right? And the Andor now doesn't have that familiarity again that we've been seeing, on and off again, where Disney's trying to, or Lucasfilm, I don't know. It's really interesting about how these shows and TV shows and movies have gone about trying to serve different parts of the audience, and it's like, because it's all isn't the same, that Lucasfilm must be a mess. I just think they're just telling these stories and themes in different ways for different audiences, for different age groups, in a way that it can connect with all. And sometimes they really hit the mark, and sometimes they don't. Whether it's the production quality compared to like Obi-Wan and Boba Fett, and you look at Andor and Mandalorian, I mean, like, it's incredible the differences in the way some of these shows have been made, and then so that's what people compare to. If you want to compare, as you talked about earlier, Kevin, how Obi-Wan looks compared to how Andor looks, it's like, dang.
How did they not throw every penny at an Obi-Wan movie?
That's because it's a pandemic-made show, right? And so you're dealing with a lot of limitations when you throw it into the volume, because
people are complaining too that first duel took place in like, oh, that looks like they had a fight at like a rock quarry in Fresno.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest, I didn't think that did not look great. It did not look great to me, but at the same time, I understood kind of what they were going for on a story level. So I was like, okay, yeah, if I read this on a book or in a comic, I'd be like, this is incredible.
Yeah, your brain.
Right? Because your brain can do a lot, the brain's a lot stronger making up its own, images, right? But when it's presented to you that way, it's a little bit harder to see, for some people, it's harder to see through that because people love the aesthetic of Star Wars. And so it's hard to see through that and what's actually happening in the story between Vader and Obi-Wan at that point, when he drags him through the fire and all that stuff. So you're like, I don't know how that looks, but if you read it on paper, if that script was leaked online, I bet you people would be going absolutely nuts over it. But because of the way it's presented, that distracts them from the story, and that's how some people just consume media. And I can't hate you for that, but it's all about how you go about having that conversation of, because people work hard on this stuff, and it's not like they're just doing it to, some people are probably just doing it because it's their job, but a lot of people who make Star Wars, I think, really do love Star Wars, save for Tony Gilroy. Although I think he really does like Star Wars. I think he just loves the themes more than the minutia, the lore, if you will, of it. But nonetheless, I've been rambling.
I am curious what George Lucas. I talked to you guys about this. Like the cars in 1950 look nothing like the cars in 1985, right? Going to Back to the Future style, and then although it starts, the more we come to the present time, things start to look the same. Like jets from 30 years ago probably kind of look the same as jets now, except everything on the interior and the stuff, like the technology is way more advanced. But it would have been interesting if The Force Awakens came out. I think if George was behind the wheel of that, I think it would be more drastic of a visual look, and I think it would have made that appearance of the X-Wing on Ahch-To even more powerful. Here's an old school ship flying along whatever new type of Nubian type technology, whatever they would do.
Yeah,
so
but
I don't think it was lazy. I think it was fine.
And I love sequels. I really do. I like them a lot to varying degrees.
There's a certain way that jet fighters look with the wings and stuff like that. So it makes sense that from all the way from Episode 3, they had the ARC 170s that look kind of like the X-Wing, the precursor. So I get the criticism per se, but I too liked all three sequels. So for me, it was less. My heart was breaking for the fandom, and especially that Last Jedi. I walked away from that movie blown away at how different it was, but how Star Wars it was, and I was really floored. And it reminds me of when you're really proud of something, and then you release it, or in editing, we're doing an episode and we think we nail it, and we send it to the network, and the network comes back with 25 pages of notes and they hated it, and you're just what? We're so proud of it. It could air today and it would be really good. But some people, it's all subjective. People have their opinions, and you have to respect that. I just wish that everybody felt the same way I did, as far as respecting people's opinions and seeing for what they are. I like hearing everyone's opinions. That's why earlier in the show, when I was I want to hear why that's your favorite moment, because I like to see it through your eyes, and I enjoy Star Wars seeing it through other people's perspectives and stuff too.
Yeah, I saw The Last Jedi by myself on opening night, and I was absolutely blown away. I loved it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, people didn't like it? I talked to my coworker 2 days later or whatever, and he was like, oh, that was awful. He undid everything that JJ set up. I'm like, what are you talking about? Did we watch the same movie? He's like, porks, the fucking porks,
real quick, Brandon, I'm sorry. I do find it's funny that people got mad at Rian Johnson for what he did to Luke Skywalker. J.J. Abrams didn't do anything with Luke Skywalker.
He put him on the island.
He killed Han Solo and didn't do anything with Luke Skywalker, but we got to go after Rian Johnson?
Rian Johnson
Come on.
let Luke Skywalker do the most powerful thing that any Force user in the history of the galaxy has done. He projected himself across a ocean of stars, an ocean of galaxies, to another planet, and made it to where he could actually interact with Leia, and that droids would be able to see him, and fool Kylo Ren enough to save the remnants of the rebellion, and in doing so, sacrificing his life, and he left with peace and purpose. One of the most powerful, it's cool. Phantom Menace, that first time where they run away and they see super fast, and you're like, oh, we're gonna see that all throughout the trilogy. Never happened again.
Yeah,
But,
why didn't he just run to Crate?
but like seeing the ultimate, like most powerful version of the Force ever, and like people were crapping on. Did I look my headcanon when the pictures of Canto Bight? There was leaked photos of like the set. And there's going to be a casino thing. I thought that it was going to be a crawl, pan down, and it was Luke and Rey, master and apprentice, on a mission on a casino-like planet that looked like Onderon. I thought it might even be Onderon. So my headcanon was completely different when it wasn't a time jump where it happened and Luke never gets off the island. But Yoda never made it off Dagobah. Like, so there's so many, right? So there's different things to you have to.
It's like poetry.
But I understand why people would be upset, and like I just wish that. It really did make fandom toxic for a while, and like Obi-Wan was starting to do that a little bit. Book of Boba Fett, people were all of a sudden turning on Star Wars TV. It needs to go back to the movies, and it's like, and now Andor's like, oh, it's exactly great. I mean, so you can never,
they're never gonna please everybody. You're never gonna do that.
Can we talk about how at the end of The Force Awakens there are birds on the island on Octo? And then all of a sudden, the next movie, they're porgs, and all the regular birds are gone.
The porgs came in, man.
What's that about?
They wiped them all out.
Chewie ate all the chicken.
Where's Chewie? If George Lucas was still in charge, he'd make a special edition, and he'd go back and he's like, we got to CGI all these birds and turn them into porgs in The Force Awakens for the continuity.
I thought you were going to mention this meme. Well, you wouldn't be. Well, I'll just, it's not good for the radio, but you see it. Just get a
no, I know
chuckle.
the bricks and screws meme. Yes, we
what?
all know.
Yeah, but no. Oh no, that's not. Oh, I thought.
Yeah, that's what you're
I
showing
thought
us
it said
bricks.
Birds. Oh, I read it like it said birds. When I first saw the meme, it's a meme where it's on Naboo, and it's Anakin and Padme walking, and then never mind. Just
I can see how you would think it would look like birds, but,
so then I thought you were making a mention.
But like that got around fairly quickly and on a lot on Twitter.
Well, you're all into the you're plugged into the center of meme happenings.
So
I'm kind of always late to the party, as we know. From
but
our
I
old
can
meme
also
battles.
read.
So aside from the birds turning into porgs,
Yeah.
which makes no sense, I actually think that it does make sense within the context of the story for the Resistance to still be flying X-Wings, because the New Republic was completely demilitarized.
Sure.
Because they didn't want war. Probably one of the dumber things that Mon Mothma did.
I don't want to get
life.
super into the weeds with all this, because I want to have the conversation with Sean as well, because I know he's got a lot of thoughts on this.
On birds?
I would say one thing: there was leaked art from The Force Awakens, and I thought it was going to tee up episode 8. Where with Leia talking to Hutts. It was like this, it was a shot of Leia or painting of Leia talking to the Hutts, and I thought because they couldn't get Republic backing that episode 8, The Last Jedi, was going to be this hodgepodge. Kind of they did that in Rise of Skywalker a little bit, where it's just all of a sudden every ship from the galaxy came in. But I really thought it was going to be the Resistance was teaming up with like bounty hunters and stuff to fight because it was going to get the okay with like the Hutt Lords and whatnot, and be like, all right, you got the backing of the underworld, so it would be Leia and the underworld.
I wish there was like another movie like in between 8 and 9 where they set that up.
Yeah,
because it would have made the ending of 9 have a much better payoff. That's like the one, not to get too much into it, Frank, but it just happens so fast. It's like, oh, me and Chewie are gonna go ask the rest of the galaxy to come fight with us. Hey, they all said yes.
Well, hey, if you ever rode Star Tours, The Adventures Continues at Disneyland, if you actually get the Exegol portion, Lando pops up and you get to hear what he says to all the ships, which I thought was kind of cool.
What does he say?
He just says, hey, there's a battle going on. It's time to save the galaxy. And R2 and C-3PO is like, oh, we have to go to Exegol. So you go to Exegol, but like
That's all it took?
Yeah, dude.
Where was that?
Lando?
Where was that energy in the Battle of Scarif?
And by the way, also, it's really like if you imagine you're on an airline, right? You're like flying from LA to New York, and then you're like over Texas, and then someone hollows in and says, "Hey," to the pilots, "We got to go fight this battle over Montana." So then you make a segue, or not a segue, a detour. Now you're an airplane fighting a battle, an air battle with all these passengers. Because remember, Star Tours is a commercial passenger Starline airline airport.
Just start throwing your luggage at TIE fighters.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like, I didn't sign up for this. Your C-3PO's flying us through this battle. We're just trying to get home to frickin' Kessel.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up this
Who
episode.
lives on Kessel?
And what better way?
Pikes guy.
What better way to wrap up this episode by talking about things we disliked about the series, if anything. And I will just start off. It's a very, very minor gripe. I wish
More Tim.
we got. Absolutely not. We were filled to the brim
With Tim.
with Tim. I kind of wish Mon Mothma's storyline had more movement, because I felt like we sat on the 400,000 debacle for a long time. I kind of wish there was maybe some more stuff she was dealing with going on. But even those scenes though were like incredible. Like the acting, the writing. I was still like mesmerized by the writing and the acting in those scenes. I just kind of wish we got to see her do a little bit more, and it's going to be interesting. Oh, actually, we're not going to wrap up. This is going to wrap up the talking about Andor as we get into season 2 news, and that's what we'll wrap up with. Just real quick to hit on some of the updates, what we know about season 2. But to finish the Mon Mothma stuff, I just kind of wish there was a little bit more movement in terms of her activity within the beginnings of the rebellion, because it kind of felt like she was working with Luthen, and then she was like, I'm going to bring somebody in, and Luthen was like, all right, go off and do whatever you're going to do, and just kind of was like an afterthought. I just wish there was a little bit more for Mon, because as we get into season 2, it's going to jump a year, and so it's going to be really interesting to see where she's at. But that's kind of my little nitpick, my little gripe about it. But other than that, I think the show was great. Although I do wish they released them in arcs. That'd have been nice. But again, very minor quibbles about the show.
Thank you. I mean, I mean,
you have no notes.
I have.
Okay, Brandon, what do you get?
No, that's what I'm trying to say is like, thank you for saying the arc thing, because I was trying to come your whole time. I was listening to you, and I could recite everything you said, but
Debatable.
I was trying to figure out like what, and I realized again, if you rewind it, you'll see my face realizing how good this show is, because I'm literally trying to find something and I can't. I would just then say thank you, because I think the release order, the act outs, some of the act outs early on especially, were just kind of like, oh okay, that's a weird way to end. Like, oh, read this, do your homework, okay, wide shot, end. Like, that some of the act outs were weak, but it seems like it's solved if you watch them in.
It does fit. It does feel a lot better when you put them all together.
So if I have to find something like that, and I hate to sound like such a shill or whatever you want to call it, but it's an excellent, well-made production from top to bottom. So I would just say the reverse or the release order or the act outs. Some of them were, but then they have the never more than 12 act out. It was just like one of the greatest act outs of all time. So
great.
That was it.
Yeah, I think they should have let Kino Loy know how to swim.
He escaped. I saw him on the beach.
And then afterwards, they go, oh, Kino Loy, like, what are you going to do? And he's like, oh, I'm going to go back to my home planet of Alderaan. Nothing bad ever happens there. And then that's the last we ever see of him.
Are you the one that did the someone did fan fiction where they hope the last scene of the show is an after credit scene where Cyril and Dedra are together, and they're like together, and they've whatever happens, like
Dedra gives birth to Snoke.
No, then they do this. They kind of do the thing like with Palpatine, like, oh, we will watch your career with great interest, to get that like laugh. But it would be Cyril and Dedra are awarded for their whatever they do during season 2 to try to track down, maybe Luthen's killed because of them, and they're like, good job, you're promoted. You're going to be assigned to the Death Star. So then like, oh, they're going to end up dying. I think that would be a really kind of.
We're going to assign you to the archives on Scarif.
Yeah, like no matter what, you know that they don't survive. By the way, I would say that would be one of my strong predictions now. Although I don't think they're.
We have a cut scene to Scarif where like Cyril sees like Cassian running by out a window and he goes, "Son of a bitch!"
That would be.
Oh,
that's gonna be like a robot chicken, like short.
Oh, it's
type
so
of thing.
good, bro. So true.
Yeah, before we wrap up here, because we're running long as we always do, some news on season 2 that we know of right now.
Yeah, you sent some links. There's some links on that email. We did lots of research.
Jeddah City.
Here's a quote of Tony Gilroy in a Polygon.com article. He says, "We're going to skip a whole year from season 1 to season 2.
Oh.
We come back a year later. Many things have changed. we'll do 3 episodes and we'll jump a year, and we'll do another 3 episodes and we'll jump a year, and we'll come back to the final 4 episodes, and those episodes will be the last 3 days really before Rogue One, and the final scene of the show will be walking you into Rogue One.
Is that 13 episodes then? So 3 is 9.
Well, I mean, I think he was just
And then
saying
the
we'll
final
do 3,
4.
we'll do 3, you know.
So yeah, but 3 is 9.
We'll do
and
3
then he said then
episodes,
the
we'll jump a
final
year,
4.
we'll do 3 episodes, jump a year,
6.
and then we'll come back and do the final 4.
Oh, so it's less than. It's gonna be less.
No, it's still gonna be 12. I think he was just saying.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
So
When
is
did
the
Tony
last
Gilroy
scene,
write that equation?
Is the last scene then
I think it's Andor.
Krennic getting on the ship to go to Lamu?
No, I think it's
actual
Andor going to meet.
Ring of Kafrene. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Tivik. Yeah, I think that's. He says literally walk you into
It's
it.
made of
There's
kyber.
no other way to walk you
It's a
in with the
planet
main
killer.
character of Andor into that scene. I think that's where
It's actually going to be the producers of the show, like walking. This is where you're going to stand, Mr. Luna, and here you go, and action.
Yeah, so I thought that they're going to follow the same kind of arc pattern, but we're jumping a year.
I love that. I love year.
Like literally walking.
Yeah, I love I love time jumps. I loved it between the trilogies or the movies, which is why that was the only other negative, I guess, for me about The Last Jedi. I was like, oh man, there's like, what are you gonna put in the crawl? 0 time passed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I would have done a cold open.
For episode 8?
8, yeah.
Yeah. So I do love time jumps, and I hope people have different haircuts. I thought that the time jump was cool with Finn, where he had a kind of cool haircut, and Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, I'm excited for the time jumps. What do you guys think is going to happen in each? Let's just real quick role play. Since we're already long, let's go a little longer. You know, you have the time jump one. It's going to be a mission, you think, and then you'll jump in time because you're going to have one that. Do you think Mon is going to still be with the rebellion? What's the timeline like? Is she still with the Senate at that point? So we'll get a little of that, or are we going to see that happen off screen?
I don't know where in the timeline the Gorman stuff happens.
Yeah.
And how and where, because like they could easily not do it because of wherever they place the time jump, right? Because like the arc is only going to take place over probably a certain amount of days or weeks, whatever. I don't know if they'll do. I don't.
Well, like,
wait, did they say it is a year?
But they set
Well,
up.
because we're 4 years out now from Rogue One.
They set up Mon, right? And you're going to care about how she's in over her head. So it would be weird if a year from now she suddenly just, oh, no, I had to leave because of all this Gorman stuff. It's actually a crutch, although because you're going to have to expect fans to watch Rebels to see that. And I hope that doesn't become a crutch in the storytelling for Andor. I hope maybe they show it, or in hollow reels, or
I mean, I don't know that
in the news here.
they're
Mon
gonna
Mothma leaves the Senate.
redo, like, because then you have to bring in the whole Rebels crew, right? To do,
guy.
which you could. I mean,
No, they wouldn't redo it.
honestly
but-
though, I kind of think we might actually see Hera in season 2. Gosh, I think if anyone on the Rebel crew, I think
She is mentioned in Rogue One.
she's mentioned in Rogue One. She's
Captain Syndulla.
and she's the leader of her cell, right? So if she's helping get in the
You
organization
imagine a
going,
scene with Saw Gerrera, Hera, and other people that rhyme with era. But yeah, yeah.
so
Lyra.
that might be a
Things
thing.
we can go
But
through.
it will be interesting to see where they do these time
Yeah, that's what I was
time
gonna say.
jumps, or when they start them, because it's gonna be a year, but where how does that mesh with Rebels? And I think there's gonna be a lot of us trying to figure out where exactly events of Rebels takes place in between, within the time jumps, which will be fun to figure out. And Tony Gilroy has talked about there will be more familiar faces that you're gonna see in season
Like
2, and that does
very-
make sense as the rebellion, as it gets a little
Did
bit
you
more
miss me?
and more organized. Man, we just need a little short scene with Palpatine.
Well, I think it would have been like, yeah, I don't know anymore now because we're getting.
I mean, I
too
don't know
close
either
now.
because like this,
I just thought it would have been a good. Yeah,
but
We'll see.
I do think season 2 will be much more akin to people's. Oh, this is what Star Wars is,
Yeah, and they'll think that's because they
there'll
whined
be
about
there'll
it
be
that they
X
changed it,
wings
but
at
it's
some
already
point.
been pre-written.
There'll be Y wings at some point. You'll see maybe
Jawa.
see Radis.
Thomas
I don't
Harper
know,
just
Oh, no,
woke
I
up
heard-
in a cold sweat.
I feel like
Ooh,
I saw a
Radis.
spy report, not a spy report, but a report that the Radis was in it, or maybe it was just someone's wish.
God,
I
I
don't know.
hope
it all
he's
blends
in it.
together. He's got to be.
For the Force be
I
with
feel
you,
like
Rogue
you're going
One.
to see that person from Terrace too. In the what chance do we have against them? She's from Terrace. KOTOR reference.
That's right.
What is she proposing?
Yeah, I want that guy.
Yeah.
I want that guy.
Melshi, we'll get Melshi.
Oh yeah, Melshi for sure.
I think one of the arcs is going to be like the K2SO.
Oh yeah,
arc,
duh.
like
yeah.
how they meet. Yeah.
I mean,
how they meet,
did do
how
that-
not how B2 was reprogrammed, right?
right. He's not. They're not.
it's actually K2. We're going to find out K2 was the Emperor's like personal droid.
Goes, what a long day at work in the Senate. I can't wait to go home and hang
Throws
out
his robe.
with my buddy K2. K2, where'd you go?
It'll be interesting to see what they do with the K2 introduction.
K2, I
because
need you to massage my
they've-
boils on my feet.
they've already done a one shot with K2 and
the
how
comics.
Cassian. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting how they go about that. I would love for that to be an
Do you
arc.
think
though.
they would do? Oh, I haven't seen or read the one shot yet. I'm kind of interested in doing that. Do you think they would just do a straight translation of it, or is it too contradictory? I know that his homeworld Ferrix looks way different in the comics too. Like they had a comic where Ferrix.
Well, Ferrix didn't even exist until Andor. So
his
Fest.
homeland was different.
It was Fest.
Yeah.
So
But they said that was a lie.
right. So I don't. So like yeah, there is some massaging there
interesting.
going on. I don't know. And yeah, I would like to think we kind of wrap up the story, the sister storyline in some
You
form or
got it,
fashion
yeah.
because just
It's
Marvel
Daedra.
alone saying that.
Daedra, guys.
Yes, a white woman. Just
White passing. I think she dyes her hair, right?
think
Like
she-
she's not a natural blonde.
sure.
I see black at the roots. I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
Mr. Fashion.
Yeah.
What?
Maybe it's Cyril. And Cyril had
So what are you talking about?
undergone like a gender change.
All right, that's enough. Okay, we definitely
There's
do need
the
to end the show.
technology there for it. Probably we have the technology here.
Sure. Anything else you think
I
we
think
might
he
see?
would recognize his own brother.
You think? Yeah. You think? What else do you think we might see in season 2? Anything else?
I would love, like, what if season 2 had like a cold open and it was Palpatine giving a speech of like them cracking down on stuff even harder than they did after the Aldani heist.
Yeah, because you can't just have Palpatine anymore in the middle of an episode. Like that wouldn't be it. And it was like he needed to be in that after credit scene instead of the Death Star scene. Or you're right, the first scene of season 2, you just and it's just on. Imagine as a black screen, and you hear his voice first, and then it goes up on camera.
We
and you
did
see
get him
it.
in Obi-Wan, and I thought he looked excellent.
Yeah, I did
in
too,
that,
actually.
but I've also heard people like say they didn't think he looked good, so I don't know.
No one's happy.
I'm curious to see where we're going to pick up with Dedra and Cyril because it's a whole year now. Because
They're gonna have a little boy,
married
little kid.
married
They're gonna have
kid.
kids. Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my
They're
god,
living on Naboo.
Cassian's gonna be an uncle.
Uncle Casa, Uncle Casa. I think that's going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward
Oh.
to it. I'm looking forward to the Grievous.
Should I open
you hear
this?
about
Oh,
Tony
yes.
Gilroy is doing
It
a
is
Grievous
December
miniseries.
All right.
General Kenobi.
I mean, you would watch that though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
obviously. I'd watch it.
I would watch Gonk, a Star Wars story.
All right, so right
Gonk.
now for the audio
Gonk.
listeners, right now
Should've done this
Brandon is opening this holiday calendar of
Holiday
sorts.
calendar. Some Christians may
look a lot
think it's an Advent calendar.
I was going to say Grogu.
Oh, that's good. I just now we
Well, I
probably
mean, that means
my
we
voice was so good. Do you think we're gonna get like a copyright strike?
So we're gonna eat one of these chocolates.
He likes blue macaroons.
Yeah, we do got to get some blue macaroni.
You know what? By the way, one more thing. Listening to the soundtrack with my wife,
soundtrack?
Ray's theme for Force Awakens.
There you go, smell it.
The Star Wars sequel trilogy feels like Christmas movies to me because they all released in December.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Especially
Like,
Force
so-
Awakens.
Yeah,
all these,
no,
all
really
these
Force Awakens
numbers
is a
are
great
out of
Christmas
order.
movie.
It
for
was
some
such a
reason.
great. I remember that Christmas
Yeah.
fondly, and also Rogue One. Like those December releases. Wish they released Solo in the winter.
So Brandon's opening.
I'm
day
opening-
one
Well, I'm just
because it's
trying-
December 1st.
December 1st.
is there like trivia under it, or what do you do?
What's going on there?
I
It's
can't.
not December 1st though. You
It
Yes,
is.
it is.
When this releases,
releases,
in the
it's December
future.
Oh.
There's a little chocolate in there.
What kind of chocolate? What is it? A shape? What is it?
I don't know. It's just
Paint me a word picture, Brandon. Come
it's like a rectangle. I'm gonna maybe
Paint the scene.
on. Pop it out.
maybe
Pop it
there's
out.
something on the other side. There is. It says
It's a brick. It looks like a brick.
it says
Marva.
Star Wars on
Is
it.
it really? Let me see.
Oh, that would have been funny. It said Marva on it.
Okay,
It
it's like an old
says-
school like
It
Star Wars.
says Star
logo.
Wars.
You got to eat it.
You gotta eat it.
me-
You're not gonna touch
yeah,
it.
you
I-
eat it.
Wow.
You opened it.
Rub your paws off me.
I have clean hands.
Now, do I get to have one too?
No,
or-
we have to wait till next week.
Wow.
Well, no. Can't we, next
It's one per day, yo. It's a calendar.
Yeah, so
We're not on day 2.
But day
3,
2 is going to be when they're still watching. We have like 5 days to do. 7 days.
Yeah, we're gonna do it next week.
But next that's week by week. Next week will already be like December 4th or 5th.
Kevin, when we come back in 7 days,
Yeah.
we're
7
gonna
of these
eat-
are going to be gone?
we're gonna eat day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, I'm
7.
just hungry. Why can't I have some chocolate?
I don't make the rules.
What if I just turned off the thing? We're good?
Yeah, we're okay. We're good now.
Scoundrel. Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.